Yes, with us, their time's valuable.
After the session, we'd like to invite our local representatives and senators to come and speak to us. Introduce Senator David Hinkins. He represents the south part of the county, basically from 12th South and little jogs here and there. Senator Tassell, who has the rest of the county, and Representative Kraig Powell, who has all of us. Senator Bramble has Provo Canyon. He's in Michigan today, so he couldn't join us. So we invite him just to talk a little bit about how the session went and some of your thoughts and concerns, and you decided how you want to go.
I'll start with Kraig.
Start with Kraig.
Yeah, then they can fix all my mistakes. Well, Chairman Price, council members, thanks for inviting us. I've just made a few notes about the legislative session, things that I think might affect Wasatch County, and let me just go over a few of those. I think that senators may be able to talk about some more of the overarching issues and budget issues and things. You may have been aware that the Heber Railroad that has been in front of you, several times. Some of you sit on that board, and you've been aware that over the years they've been attempting to acquire some funds to make some needed improvements and repairs. This year, as part of the one of the main budget bills, through the Retirement and Independent Entities Committee, which I chair, and the Heber Valley Railroad is a state independent entity. Through our budget process, we kind of started out with this proposal and kept it on track, no pun intended, all the way through the session, and so we were able to get $250,000 in one-time funding to the railroad. You know that the railroad does not receive any ongoing money from the state, self-supporting, self-funding, but this will allow the locomotives to hopefully receive all the money that they need for the upgrades. And so I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Another issue actually that dealt with specific Wasatch County properties is the state park golf courses. So there was a bill proposed this year that actually did make it out of the Rules Committee, made it to a standing committee, which proposed to privatize the state park golf courses. There are only four around the state that are actually owned and operated by the state parks. And this is an idea that has been proposed for it's been in discussion for a number of years, and you're probably aware that our Wasatch County resident now, Fred Hayes, the Director of State Parks for the state of Utah, has been heavily involved in these discussions, and over the course of the past 3 years with the Natural Resources Appropriations Subcommittee has taken a heavy look at what would happen if the operations of the golf courses that are now basically shared with the other state park operations were instead let to a private vendor. And the Parks has concluded over the last couple of years that would not necessarily be a cost savings for the state, especially if the state parks can manage and share resources. And so the financial subcommittee, the budget subcommittee, has actually not opted to go forward with that proposal in the last few years. But this was a particular representative who just sponsored this legislation as an independent bill for the sake of privatization. There were many Wasatch County residents who showed up at the committee hearing and testified against this proposal, primarily under the argument that there's great community support, that the public-private partnership right now with the Friends of Wasatch Mountain State Park, with other volunteers, probably would not be able to continue if the operations were privatized. So to make a long story short, that bill was defeated in committee. It did not move forward any further in committee, and it may come up, but the general, I would say that the general tone is against that proposal. There's a change to election laws that you're probably aware of, and the senators may talk more about this and how this came about, but it was part of the count my vote proposal by private organization, and legislature did pass a compromise bill that significantly changed for, not starting this year, but starting in 2016, the party nomination process that actually could significantly affect any partisan office holder and candidate in the state, including positions like county council and county officers. Essentially, the gist of that, if you haven't heard already, is the way the bill's written. The alternate route to the primary ballot that somebody could use under the bill and not have to go through the caucus convention process, it has very specific numbers that are set for the other offices, such as governor, statewide offices, United States senator, member of Congress, state senators, state representatives. But because our counties are at such different sizes, they couldn't come up with a specific figure for a number of signatures for the other county offices, and so they chose the number of 3%. That's 3% of the registered voters who are allowed to vote in the primary for that party, and under the bill, it does require that unaffiliated voters are allowed to vote in the primary. So essentially, you add together whichever area that office represents, you add together the number of party members who are registered voters and the number of unaffiliated members who are registered voters. 3% of those signatures would be enough to put somebody on the primary ballot. This was a kind of a very difficult negotiated proposal, and I think that it probably will be changed. We also think it'll be challenged in court over the next couple of years, and so probably just ought to keep your eyes on that one, but I wanted you to know that that's a big change in the election processes. There are just several things actually that we could bring up, but you probably have taken some notes and watched things throughout the session, so I think we probably ought to maybe just take questions all together, Jay, after we hear from the senators.
Well, a lot of you guys may or may not know me, and then got my sunglasses on because I had a little accident, so I'm not being disrespectful by that. So healing up. I just had it yesterday morning. So I live down in Barron, Utah, and in Emery County, and my Senate district takes in from basically south of the Heber tracks down to the Four Corners to Navajo Mountain to almost Page, Arizona. And it takes about 8.5, 10 hours to drive across my Senate district, depends on the snow, and over the summit, and Hinkins Soldier Summit, and so it's Carbon, Emery, San Juan, Grand, and Wasatch, and part of Utah County, which is probably my most populous area. Springville's the largest city in my Senate district, and then Mapleton, and Price is probably the second, but anyway, I go to Landing, Moab, so I have a diverse. I was yesterday with this Lieutenant Governor in Moab, the Dead Horse Point State Park. They just built a trail down there, and he was down there, cut the ribbons on it, and so there's people riding their mountain bikes on this trail. It's a 9-mile trail. So I get to see a lot of the, I think, the most scenic part of the state from here to the Four Corners. I serve as the chairman of the appropriations for natural resources, for agriculture, and the Department of Environmental Quality for our air, water, and so it's pretty things that involve me a lot, because where I come from, we have a lot of coal-fired power plants. That's where most of the power generation comes for in the state of Utah, and that's why we have such low cost electricity compared to the rest of the nation. And also natural gas. We're natural gas between I and Senator Van Tassell. We pretty much control most of the natural gas production in the state of Utah from, of course, down on the Navajo Reservation. That's another group I represent is 10,000 Navajos, and I think Senator Van Tassell has about 3,000 Utes, and so we're a pretty diverse population. Carbon County, which everyone knows is probably as diverse for different nationalities. They all came there during the mining and the railroad, and so I represent a lot of people. This is the 2 years I've been able to represent you folks here. And as we talked about, Fred Hayes lives in your area. He's done a phenomenal job with state parks. When I first took over as the chairman on the natural resource about 4 or 5 years ago after Senator Stoll passed away, I was tasked to cut our general funding from $12 million, and it didn't go so well the first year. The director had a tough time. She resigned, and Fred Hayes stepped up. He's the new director, and he's cut it down to about $4 million we received from general fund. He's cut $8 million. And the parks are more attended. They're in better shape, more visitation, more opportunities. I can't express how great a job he's done. And his people, not just him, but the people who work for him. All the state employees, as a representative said, there's Kay Christopherson, a representative from down in Lehigh, has granted bill to try to get somebody like to bid on these. And they are doing a lot of concessions. They're subcontracting them out to the general people who would like to do that, the concessions, but they've asked like people like Billy Casper Golf to see the management of it, which they think could, and so it was an RMP that was all that was requested. Like you said, it was shut down. But we do have 4 golf courses, 3 of them being in my Senate district. Well, not really, I guess. Almost. They're almost. I mean, they're in Wasatch County. But anyway, they're the crown jewels. But of course, Green River, which is in my Senate district, is not the crown jewel. It is the, it's really very lowly attended. It's not a big population, but with the 2 oil refineries that could be going in there, as well as a lot of the oil that's loaded onto train loadouts. There's a lot of things going there. It could potentially pay for itself. But my predecessor, Senator Mike Dimitrich, was able to get us a golf course at the expense of the Utah state taxpayers. Everyone in every county is grateful for that. But other than the city, and it still costs them money as well, besides it being a state. But it's it has our Hayes, Director Hayes has brought in, and at this, besides the golf course, there's also the Green River that's there. There's a lot of camping spots. They've electrified them, and so more people are coming there visiting. And so it's actually almost broke even. We've got a lot more volunteers from the cities, and that's what's coming from, like everybody here knows. We're not like Salt Lake, where you can just appropriate more and more money, and we do a lot of volunteerism. You don't notice that so much in Salt Lake. The further you get away, the more volunteer you see, and I was thinking all the. I'm not saying that I'm jealous of Salt Lake, because I'm sure not. I hate Salt Lake. I just have to live there for 45 days during the winter, and go back to Emery County. Thank goodness for clean air, and where all them dirty coal-fired power plants are. The air's more pristine down there than it is in Salt Lake. But I've really enjoyed representing you here. I've been up here several times. I got to meet a lot of you. I hope to meet more. I've got 2 more years before I'll get probably voted out or whatever, but get a bye for a couple more years. So you're stuck with me for 2 more years. So anything I can do, please, you guys get hold of me. I see a lot of you up at the Capitol, and we do all we can. Trying to cut costs. I mean, we're the guardians of the taxpayers' dollars. We take it seriously. But then there's so many people crying that they want handouts. You all know it. You probably see it. And 50% is working for the other 50%, and that's just the way it is. And I hope that it changes. And Utah, we're pretty fortunate compared to the rest of the country. We've got the lowest unemployment of anywhere in the country. We're pretty well off in Utah. Very well run. We have a wonderful governor. You guys have got a wonderful senator, and he's done you well. Hopefully he's going to get reelected, because he's one of my few friends that I have there. So anyway, thanks for the invitation, and if I have any questions, we'll get them in a minute.